This is unbelievable. Terrible things that happened under Obama. Frank Simon with the rest of the news, and I'm here in the studio with Ed Holloway, and we're going to talk about some of the news that the regular news media has tried to cover up. The first thing we'll start with is a big breaking news story that's in Judicial Watch's magazine. It says that Obama has been giving money to George Soros for him to undermine the government in Macedonia.
Right. Well, basically, it's a combination of things, and this is just one example, and it's an excellent one. And Judicial Watch is the organization that files lawsuits to decrease the information coming out that's been buried and the media doesn't cover. And all these things, you would take something like Macedonia. Why there? Macedonia gained its independence from Yugoslavia back in 1991, and they've been going through a lot of struggles. But they're a small country, a little over 2 million people, and they're totally landlocked. They're bordered by the country of Greece, Albania, Bulgaria, Serbia, Macedonia, and a lot of others, but it's a small country, roughly a little larger than Vermont, and it's made up of the Orthodox religion and some Christians and about 16% Muslim. But at the same time, it's strategically located with all those surrounding countries. And here is Soros and his Open Society Foundation. And they've gone in there because when they got their independence, they elected a conservative democratic form of government, and they need to break that up and use that as a base to infiltrate the other countries in the surrounding area. And this is one of those insidious things that they do. Now, I don't know how many people remember the book Rules for Radicals by Saul Lewinsky.
Yeah.
But he spent a fortune translating that into Macedonian language to give to the young people. And at the same time, they've organized groups of youth and the media outlets to organize a violent protest to undermine the institution and policies that was implemented by the government. And it's one of government's and Soros's groups that would fund the translation. But the worst part from an American standpoint is that the Obama administration, money from other budgets in the taxpayer money and an effort to fund the Soros operation, and the Trump State Department is now trying to get their act together and disclose the details. But the Obama administrator or the ambassador that he had appointed, part of this overall scheme to overthrow the government. So it's just one of many, and I don't know how many people know about Soros and how many millions of dollars he's funded to totally destroy the American way of life. Black Lives Matters and a lot of other organizations are funded by his efforts to destabilize the U.S.
I believe he gave some of the money to the people in Ferguson that went out burning buildings and breaking windows.
Exactly. And then after the complete disorder that was fermented in Ferguson, Obama invited the leadership of the Black
Lives
Matters to the White House for a conference. And this is typical of what's going on, because not only this administration, but the other elitists behind the scenes have been destroying the American way of life because they cannot rebuild it into their utopia until all of the vestiges of our American system has been destroyed. And that's exactly what they're up to, and that's what they've been going on for a long time. And they've started this, and they keep it going, and there's still the fallout of all those things are still impacting on the American economy.
Obama, it turns out, was a lot worse than anybody ever dreamed that he was, don't you think? And this is just part of it, that he's using taxpayer money to Soros, who is probably one of the most anti-American, anti-freedom people in the world. And I say that because he's given money to Black Lives Matter so they can go and kill policemen and burn buildings and everything. I remember when Donald Trump was inaugurated in Washington and they were singing patriotic songs and everything. And then the cameras broke away to downtown Washington and it had the Democrats throwing rocks at the policemen.
Exactly. And this, again, is typical because it's in the book, Rules for Radicals. It was a handbook that Obama used as a student, the same one that Hillary Clinton studied. She wrote her thesis about Saul Alinsky and for her master's, and on and on and on. But this has been going on for a long time. And I watched it because all of the things that are happening, the behind the scenes, the Middle East is in total chaos right now because of their efforts with the spring.
Oh, yeah. The Arab Spring and all that.
Arab Spring and all that, and the overthrow of the Egyptian government and the placement of the Muslim Brotherhood in the leadership, and it was finally overturned. Then they had to get rid of Gaddafi, and then Libya now is a total base of ISIS. They're shipping drugs out of North Africa into all of Europe, using Libya as their base of operation. And these are the things that have never been reported, that are buried in the back, and the media doesn't cover because they've joined forces with this elitist group.
Yeah. So that's why we call this program The Rest of the News, because there's a lot of things happening that the news media do not report because they're part of the underground movement to really destroy America. I remember taking a course once, and they said when the origin of species and evolution and all that came in, that Harvard, which was a Christian university initially, heard all of that. They said, oh, well, let's kick out all of our Christian professors and bring in evolutionists. And so it's sort of a movement that swept the whole country. And now we have this new movement, which is globalism. And they want to teach globalism, get rid of the United States because it's too strong and too big and too free. We want to get rid of America, get rid of the Constitution, get rid of the Declaration of Independence, try to make government our God.
And one of the biggest threats is the Ten Commandments. And they're breaking every one of those every day.
It gives you an idea. Now, I've been around for several years, and I never realized that there were people that are actually trying to destroy America.
And it's so that they can rebuild it into this wonderful utopia of a one-world order. It's not only here, but Soros has got this operation of his Open Society Foundation in 37 different countries, all of which are the ultimate goal is to destabilize the judicial and the media and everything else. They can have these things, and taking our young people, and the education system's a classic example. They start brainwashing them in elementary school all the way through the universities.
We reported recently that almost all of the professors in the universities are Democrats, left-wing Democrats, because once they find out that there's a conservative or a Republican or someone that believes in God, they fire them right away.
Exactly. And there's no such thing as free speech anywhere left in the university.
Yeah. That's why people are so mad at Trump, because he's trying to reestablish the Constitution, reestablish the Declaration of Independence, and like you say, the Ten Commandments. And they are furious because he's throwing a monkey wrench into everything they believe in, which is the elites want to control us all.
And then one of the things that makes me the most angry, I guess you would call it, is they're in bed with the Muslims, the radicals, and the ISIS and and Al Qaeda and all of the rest of it, because they have this philosophy. They're helping to destabilize the American people. And it's like that old Arab saying, an enemy of my enemy is my friend. And they'll deal with that after the fact.
Exactly. So they're, like you say, temporarily they're in bed, but they really are not that friendly. So someday they may have a falling out. But right now, they are using the Muslims, the communists are using the Muslims to help destabilize America, which they hate. God bless you. We'll be right back. Hi, I'm Dr. Frank Simon. I'm an allergist and family doctor. board certified in both allergy and internal medicine. I specialize in allergy, headaches, sinus, hives, cough, asthma, hypertension, and diabetes. We're located at 1404 Browns Lane near Norton Suburban Hospital. Our phone number is 895-5088. We can see you tomorrow. This is Frank Simon and Ed Holloway with the rest of the news. And that means we're going to be talking about things that the liberal media is trying to bury, and they do not want you to hear about what's going on in the world. Before I forget, we have these bumper stickers. I don't know if you can see them, but this is the Jesus bumper sticker. This one says, "Together under God, we are invincible." And if you would like those, they're free, and we'll give you enough for your whole church. Just call us right now at 895-5025, 895-5025. And the other thing is, all these things we're talking about, they are going on in Washington, and there are people in Washington that know what's going on, and they're trying to stop it. They're passing bills, and you need to be involved in writing your congressman. This program we have, you just click on a button, and it'll automatically send an email to your congressman or your senator or both senators or whoever you want it to. And you can control the whole thing. If you can, give us a call right now at 895-5025, and we'll get you those emails that come out about once a week. You can be on top of everything that's happening in Washington through that. Ed, here's this report it's from the Washington Post, and it says Trump is ending Obama's covert CIA program to arm and train Syrian rebels, because it turns out the so-called good Syrian rebels were really tied in with Al-Qaeda and the Taliban and all the Muslim terrorists. And here's an article from Bill Murray. Bill Murray is the son of Madalyn Murray O'Hara and was involved in taking the Ten Commandments out of our schools, and prayer out of our schools, all that. Well, anyway, Bill Murray got converted, and he's a strong Christian now, and he's spilling the beans on these left-wingers. He says that this arms that Obama gave to the so-called good rebels in Syria was actually got into the hands of the Taliban and ISIS and all these guys, and they used those weapons that Obama gave them to murder and massacre all the Christians, or lots of Christians, in Syria and the Middle East. So it's amazing. Here again, how Obama got away with all of that.
And this, again, is just one of those things. It's like, how do you unscramble this thing? Because it goes back to, for example, in this case, goes back to the removing of Gaddafi and the destroying of Libya. Everybody remembers the Benghazi, what happened there, the mission there. Hillary Clinton was a part of the cover-up of that. There were 7 workers that were there for the State Department recovering this thing. But the thing was that over 30 members of the CIA, part of a covert operation, and they were transferring those weapons you mentioned out of the eastern Libya through Turkey into the hands of the rebels fighting Assad.
Yeah, I've heard that before.
And this is how it was going, but they weren't sure exactly whose hands it were going into. And as you pointed out, there were things that were happening not only there, but other places where the destruction of everything involving the Christian religion.
They're against it.
The Coptics,
yeah,
for example, in Egypt, all of those things. And the historical landmarks and other things that go back to the days of Christianity and other were completely destroyed, as well as the people. There was one community that had been there for over 1,000 years that was literally destroyed. It was burned to the ground. Every member, man, woman, and child, were murdered. And nobody said anything about it. And this has happened to Christians throughout the Middle East.
Obama says, I'm not a Muslim. But really, somebody said if it looks like a duck and walks like a duck and talks like a duck, it probably is a duck. We were studying in our Sunday school class about different cities and books in the Bible, Philippi, and the 7 books of Revelation. And I looked them up on Google search the other day. It says all those people in those 7 cities were massacred by the Muslims and run out of town. That's been going on for years and years and years. It's terrible. And then here comes Obama, and he arms all the Muslims over there, or a lot of them, so they can massacre all the Christians that were in the cradle of Christianity, where Paul lectured and all of that. Unbelievable. Like we said, there's a lot. Nobody ever dreamed that Obama was doing all these things.
And the thing about it, too, was the Muslim Brotherhood, which plays a major role in this country, and they were a major part of the Obama administration. The people that were working in the administration, it goes on and on and on, because we could talk about this forever, about what was going on behind the scenes, and while at the same time things were happening to supply arms and things to these so-called rebels, at the same time they were not giving any support to those that were our allies. And all of those things were happening, and it was so insidious, and it was a slow process. It began at day one when he said, I'm going to fundamentally change America.
I've heard this before, that the reason Hillary lied about Benghazi and would not help the Americans in Benghazi is because they were there to get weapons and guns and ammunition over to the Muslims in Syria or wherever. They didn't want anybody to know that they were over there shipping arms into Syria.
And that was why we did not send any support to those people that were under attack.
They wanted to get rid of them because they might spill the beans.
Exactly. And we sent in American troops, special forces, and others. They would have seen what was going on, and they would have blown the whistle.
So much going on that no one ever dreamed of, because most people believe the news media, which is public enemy number one.
Yeah. And it's hard to believe for a Christian to look at these things and say, nobody would ever do that.
Yeah.
Nobody would ever do that. And that puts a blanket in front of your face, and you really can't see some of these things. And it needs to go behind it and look deep into these things and into your own heart to deal with this.
The murders and massacres of these Christian children, all of that over there, just because of all the hate in the Muslims that they want to murder all the Christians.
And what's going on right now, for example, we had control of Mosul in Iraq. That was a place where we had sent our forces in there and had turned it around and everything was fine. Then they cut back on the troops. They pulled everybody out. And then the ISIS and others took over again. And now they've sent troops back to help the indigenous army to take it back. And they finally, I think in the last week or two, gained control. But one of the insidious things that wasn't reported was that ISIS and the Muslims were using women carrying babies that were covered with bombs and come to and exploded.
Good grief. But I think under Trump, they're beginning to get Mosul back now. Isn't that right?
Exactly. Yeah.
This is Frank Simon and Ed Holloway, who's a retired state representative. And I got this from Catholic Vote, and it says the Democrat leadership is now openly stating its hostility to Catholic voters, and you might as well say Christian voters. The new chairman of the National Democratic Party, Tom Perez, actually said recently that pro-life Americans are no longer welcome in the Democrat Party.
Exactly. And this is the thing that's most irritating at all, their attitude toward Christians and to the Catholic Church. At the same time, the Catholic charities are involved in the bringing in of thousands of Muslims into the country as part of the resettlement. And all of these things are happening simultaneously, and nobody, again, notices that. when we talk about abortion, again, goes back to what I was saying about the Ten Commandments. Thou shalt not kill.
This one world government, they think there are too many people. So they want to get rid of some of us.
Exactly. And that you can go back when they got rid of DDT. DDT was this one terrible thing. It was causing birds' eggs to not develop and all these other things. But that was a smokescreen, because in the process of cutting out that, tens of thousands of Africans and others died from the infectious diseases that were caused by the mosquitoes and others that were doing. And when somebody asked one of the leaders of that was also part of this movement to cut down the population of the world, and he said openly, they said, well, that's working, isn't it? We're cutting out.
Oh, my goodness.
So those kind of things have been going on, but they're like drops in the Chinese torture.
Yeah.
And they come at us. And people after a while becomes immune and say, oh, I'm not going to believe it. I'm not going to listen to it anymore and all these other things.
I think that's called the Malthusian theory, that the world is going to become overpopulated and there won't be enough food. So let's kill off a lot of them.
And we can't do it in a covert, in an open manner. We do it in a covert ways. The same thing is true of global warming.
Yeah, global warming,
In order to cut that, we've cut the production of coal and other natural resources in this country back to the bone, and hundreds of people have lost jobs and other things because of this thing. And at the same time, it weakens this country and other countries.
Yeah, which is what they're trying to do.
Exactly.
Obama, it's like he had a war on coal.
That was a classic example of one of the things.
He wants to get rid of coal and coal miners and get rid of their jobs. So he had a war on Christianity. He's sending money over there to the Muslims so they can murder all the Christians.
Exactly.
A war on women. He wants to bring in more and more rape gangs into the United States, and a war on America. Tom Perez, the head of the chairman of the National Democratic Party, says if you're pro-life, they don't want you in the Democratic Party. There you go. And he says, show every Catholic voter how openly anti-Catholic or anti-Christian and pro-abortion the leadership of today's Democratic Party has become. It didn't used to be that way, but it has become that way now.
Well, again, that was another thing that they decided a long time ago. Was any semblance to the Democratic Party of 30, 40 years ago and today is totally wrong. It's like Ronald Reagan's, I didn't leave the Democratic Party, it left me. And that's just what they deliberately took to point to take over the Democratic Party in the last 2 or 3 decades. And they have been successful, and they have done that.
They've taken over the Democratic Party.
And
these radicals.
The rank-and-file Democrat is left with no voice.
Yeah.
No nothing, and they're being persecuted daily on these type of things.
Now, here's another article. This says that Melinda Gates is giving $250 million for, they call it family planning, but basically it's abortion. Wants to give a lot of money to promote abortion, pay doctors to get in there and kill all these babies. That's another part of how they want to get rid of people.
And another insidious part of exactly of that, of abortion, and how it was founded. And the people that were involved in starting it originally were concerned about the growth of the black population.
Yeah, they wanted to get rid of all the black people.
They wanted to get rid of the black people, and they figured abortion was the best way to do it. Another covert way of getting accomplished what they wanted to do.
We have a video about that called Mayalpha 21, and we'll get you a copy of that if you call us 895-5025. Ed, here was an article from the Washington Times, and it said that the government has been spending, here it says, $30,000 on printing voting ballots in several different languages. So the illegals can get those ballots and vote like they did for Hillary in California by the thousands. It says more than half of the reporting jurisdictions said no one used the bilingual materials. In 1996, this county in California official reported that in 16 years, only one person had requested the bilingual ballots, and yet Obama administration is printing everything in 2 languages.
That's assuming that he was telling the truth. One of the things we haven't even discussed, and it's another example, is Obamacare.
Oh, yes.
Obamacare was never, and again, another smokescreen.
Yeah.
It was never intended to work. It was to show and create a situation where the only solution was one payer insurance company type thing, and they would end up with a total government-controlled health care.
Right.
A socialized medicine is very similar to what happened in some of the other countries.
And it's a total collapse in other countries, and they say, oh, it's wonderful, wonderful, but it isn't.
And it was designed that way so that it wouldn't work, and your only solution was to have single payer and then convert it to government-run total medical system.
There was a doctor who reported that they had a ward floor of a hospital where they sent all the patients that they wanted to die.
Right.
So they'd ship them in there, and they wouldn't give them, antibiotics or whatever they needed. And they just shipped them up there to die because it was too expensive to put them on a respirator or things like that. We want to remind you once again, if you want these free Jesus bumper stickers for everybody in your church, or this other bumper sticker, it says, "Together under God, we're invincible." Just give us a call, 895-5025. And Ed, here's another paper from Catholic Vote. It says, the left-wingers hate everyone who loves America. And they've proven that over and over again. Like you say, the Democrat Party used to be pro-American party, but now they just want to get rid of pro-life people and things like that.
Right. Well, there's been a tremendous number of churches and others, various denominations, who have been threatened by the government one way or another. And there have been such an onslaught of that a lot of the ministers are intimidated and are refusing to get out and really fight this issue out front and make to stimulate the others. And particularly, you can't say anything about how to vote or anything about it, but all of those things have been intimidation in order to shut the American people, the rank and file, up, quit opposing everything.
That's exactly right. But I think people are beginning to wake up. They say that the Catholics who usually vote Democrat voted 51% for Trump. So people are beginning to wake up.
And the rank and file is the only avenue of survival that this country has. Every man, woman, and child in America needs to be informed. Take the proper action.
Even the labor unions, a lot of labor unions used to vote completely Democrat, are voting Republican. Well, Ed, I want to thank you. We're running out of time. God bless you, and God bless the listeners. Tune in again next week for the rest of the news.